Hello and welcome to a new season of Homegrown DXB, the show taking you inside the lives of the people changing yours right here in the UAE. Now this season comes at an extraordinary time in the country's history, a time of unprecedented circumstances. It's a time when the resolve of the UAE and the people who call it home has been sorely tested. But it gives me great pride to say that this extraordinary time has been met with extraordinary efforts by extraordinary people. Well, here on Homegrown DXB, I have the privilege of sitting down with the dreamers and the upstarts, the legacy brands and the change makers, all of whom are an essential part of this beautiful tapestry we call Dubai. Our guest today doesn't believe in waste. Dr. Haythem Riahi is one of the founders of Circa Biotech, a UAE-based company that is taking organic waste and turning it into the building blocks of the future. Using an innovative process that upscales waste and produces insect proteins, aviation fuel, and fertilizers, Circa Biotech aims to create a circular economy where waste is minimized and resources are optimized, heralding an environmental stewardship that is sorely needed, especially in the light of the energy crisis and supply chain disruptions that we are seeing today. Dr. Haythem, thank you so much for being with us on Homegrown. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure. I think the work you are doing, you obviously and your team is so fascinating. And I just want to set the stage for our viewers, our listeners out there. Tell me about Circa Biotech, what it is you guys do, because I think it's so appropriate for the moment we're facing now.
Yeah, definitely. So at Circa Biotech, we started in 2020. So we are now almost 6 years that we are operating. And what we do is we receive food waste. So here in the UAE, we produce 3.2 million tons of food waste per year. So we receive what we call pre-consumer food waste that we mix and give it to a beneficial insect. It's called the black soldier fly. So we rear that at an industrial scale. We process 6,000 tons of food waste per year. And within 10 days, we turned into animal feed, organic fertilizer, and feedstock for sustainable aviation fuel.
So tell me about some of those, I guess, applications then. So when we're talking about the three main products that you produce. And actually, tell me more about the black soldier flies, the larvae that you feed, because I think even that process itself is really interesting. So you feed them and then they naturally produce these byproducts? How does that work?
Okay, sorry, I want to head myself. So, you know the story of the caterpillar eating and becoming a butterfly?
Yes.
Okay, so these flies have the same cycle. So they hatch from an egg and they are a larvae, kind of worm-looking creature, and they eat a lot. They eat double of their body weight. It's like me, I'm 80 kg, I ate 160 kg. And tomorrow I'll be bigger, so I'll be eating more and more. In 10 days, they grow 500 times.
And this is a normal process?
This is their cycle. This is how they operate in nature. We didn't change anything. The only thing that we added is how to make this into an industrial process. But naturally, and we are mimicking nature, actually. We didn't invent anything. We just engineered an environment where those beneficial insects are able to grow and reproduce. So they eat all the waste that we give them, the 6,000 tons of them, in 10 days with no emissions, and then we harvest them. Once we harvest them, we extract protein, oil, and their frass, so it's their manure. We turn their manure into an organic fertilizer, and their protein is used as ingredient for animal feed. So we feed it to chicken or fish, actually to animals that naturally in nature, insect is part of their diet. And we invented a process. This is completely new. This is our invention at Circa Biotech. So we have a patent that we filed in the US 2 years ago about how to turn insect oil into fuel for aviation.
So about the fuel, the sustainable aviation fuel, that piece of it, I think that was a later discovery, right? That wasn't
Correct.
Something at the beginning. How did you find out, or how did you realize that that was a potential product you could produce also?
We had a problem. So insect farming it's not invented by Circa Biotech. There's over 400 companies all around the world that are rearing insect at an industrial scale, and it's a growing industry that is driven by protein. What we are producing mainly, still now, the more expensive product is protein. In the process of producing protein, you have a byproduct, which is the fat, okay? So our first facility was in Abu Dhabi, in Masdar City, and it was a small industrial setup, so it was a pilot. And we have a space problem. So we didn't have enough space to store the fat that we were producing, and we will not discard it. It happened that at that time, ADNOC, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, had R&D projects to produce drilling lubricants, biodegradable drilling lubricants. I said, let's give it a try. And we start working with ADNOC on drilling lubricants, and we succeed. And we turned first our oil into biodegradable, non-toxic drilling lubricant with ADNOC that they can use in offshore drilling, so they are not obliged to take the oil lubricant and bring it and decontaminate it and etc. So
do you still use it for that application today?
Yeah. So it's still used there. Small settings, like an offshore setting, but yes, it's still used. If they pay more, we can produce more. But this allowed us to better understand this byproduct, actually, of our process, and to go through hundreds, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, of tests. So we knew it very well, we characterized it very well, and we figured it out. Actually, it's a good lubricant, but it's even better fuel because the ester content was very high. So we started testing things, and we also, from a marketing point of view, let's say, we positioned ourselves in an area where we are having the highest added value, which is aviation fuel. So to give you a little bit of context, why we specifically used aviation, because actually it could be turned on any kind of fuel. It could be a fuel for boats, diesel, for whatever, but we specifically worked on aviation because there's a new international regulation that mandates that all the aviation fuel in the world has to be at least 2% sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. Remember those three letters, the acronym SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. We will be hearing about it for a long time, because this regulation started 2025 with 2%, and it will be reaching 70% by 2050. The problem is, by the year 2030, there's a shortfall in the production of sustainable aviation fuel, mainly due to the lack of feedstock. Feedstock is the element from which we make this fuel. So, for example, for conventional aviation fuel, we use petroleum. For sustainable aviation fuel, today, mainly we use used cooking oil. So this is the frying oil from McDonald's. So imagine how many small shops and small restaurants you have to go, because it's fractioned, and collect and bring in order to serve the whole aviation fuel industry with 2 to 70% of their needs. So now there's a race for innovative and alternative feedstock, and this is what we bring to the table. It's an alternative feedstock that will help us to bridge this gap and to be compliant with the new regulation. By the way, here in the UAE, we have an objective. ADNOC has an objective of producing 700 million liters of SAF, of sustainable aviation fuel, by the year 2030, tomorrow.
Basically, yeah. How does that compare to other places in the world, just to give us like a sense?
Yeah, so for sustainable aviation fuel, Europe is the hub, is the driving force of all of that. By the way, the Refuel EU is a European law. And Yeah, there's another important point. I don't know it's like it's interesting for you or not, but I will tell you about it.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I will tell you about it. So the way that you buy sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, is very specific. So if you are Emirates and you buy A1 normal conventional aviation fuel, you can buy it from France, Total, for example, and ship it here and use it locally in your place. SAF doesn't work this way because you have a ledger of your carbon footprint related to your sustainable aviation fuel. So what you do is, for example, you buy it from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, it stays there. It's used by other companies, and then you claim it, okay? So this system is called book and claim, okay? And it's mainly European. What we can do here, and this is the strategy of ADNOC, is the UAE will become the hub of book and claim SAF. Because if you are able to produce, because of 700 million liters is not for the local capacity, it's way more than we need, but we could serve all the hubs. You know, here we are at the center of at least 3 big hubs, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Doha, for the long haul, but also we can touch Saudi, Southern Eastern Asia. So all this area will be interested by having Dubai as a hub. So we need an infrastructure. We have it. Our waste refinery is one of the biggest refineries in the world, and it's ready to start producing. The only gap here is feedstock. It's what we are bringing with our alternative feedstock.
I mean, this is all amazing. I want to get to detail about each of the products you guys produce. I mean, you've obviously talked quite a bit about the SAF. I know the 3 letters now. I'm ready. But I wanted to take it back a little bit, get to know you a little bit better, find out sort of how you got into the field of biotech in the first place. You've been in it now for over 2 decades, right? What brought you to this field in the first place? What first attracted you to it?
So biotechnology, I've been in the, allow me, because a lot of people, when they hear biotech, they don't understand, or they have a wrong understanding of what is biotechnology, what's biotech. So biotechnology is bringing a technology to biology, to nature. So biotechnology could have several applications. So it could have mainly health applications, so discovery of new drugs, new molecules that we are producing at an industrial scale and that we are using for diagnosis or for therapeutic areas. It could have application on agriculture, on how to change seeds or genetically manipulate some of the species that they produce more, etc., etc. It could have application on industry. For example, if you are washing your clothes, you are using a detergent, and most of it are enzymes that are biological elements that we take it from there and we put it industrially to product that are having other applications. Could have industrial application, etc., etc. Is how to bring biological processes into industry. This is biotech. So I get into there very early, like more than 20 years, like 30 years ago now. This doesn't make me younger, by my studies. So my engineering degree, master, PhD was all in biotechnology. And
why did you choose that track? What attracted you?
It was a mistake.
Well, I mean, you talked about how the fuel was a mistake, right? That was a really positive one.
Yeah,
So
my life
all
is
these
a
good
mistake.
mistakes.
Actually, yeah. What I wanted to do was I wanted to be a vet, specifically ocean animals. I'm a scuba diver. I dive for more than 40 years now, and what I wanted, this is like the French background, I wanted to be the new Commandant Cousteau, you know, the French explorer of the oceans and the scuba diving and all of that, and then reality hits, and I started to check, and I realized actually you cannot do a good living doing that. But there's this new area of science. It's still biology. It's still something that attracted me, but it's a new field, a new area, and biotechnology seemed like good to me. So I said, like, give it a try. Let's give it a try. And then I tried it and I liked it, and then I continued, and now I'm happy about the choice that I made.
I mean, I'd say so. I think you're doing really interesting work. I guess talking about the work, you know, the black soldier fly, when did you first understand or think about the applications of that particular insect, what you could do with it? I guess where did the idea for Circa Biotech, where did that first come from?
Yeah. So I always had like a side hustle. I worked for 20 years for multinational companies in the healthcare, therapeutic, diagnostic areas. But I always had like a side hustle, entrepreneurial flame, let's call it this way. I was in the midlife crisis, and I wanted my new venture to be something impactful. And I wanted this new venture to solve a big problem. Okay, so when you think about the big problems like climate change, things like that, I was, that was 2018-19, I was already 4 or 5 years living here in the UAE. And when you live in the UAE, you cannot not notice the amount of food waste that we are producing. So for your information, the UAE is the 4th country per capita when it comes to food waste.
I know we like to be like highly ranked on things, but that one's not a good one to be
this
ranked
one,
on.
we want to flip it.
Sure.
This one want to flip it. So we are a population of 10 million, and we produce 3.2 to 3.3 million tons of food waste a year. That's a lot. It's not our culture, it's not our religion, it's not who we are. And I started searching and learning about it, and I realized actually it's not a UAE problem. It's a global problem. 1/3 of the food produced globally is wasted. Because it starts from the harvesting. So you have harvesting, you lose. You have storage, you lose. You have supply chain, you lose. Storage, you lose. Consumer, you lose. And then you waste. So it's the whole chain that bring this 1/3. And it's a big problem because we change our way of thinking. So if we are talking about food security, for example, we stop thinking or seeing it as a supply problem rather than a fair distribution, because actually we produce then enough globally. But it's how we manage it. Anyway, so, and I was thinking about, okay, so food waste, what's the implication of food waste? And here, like, my mind started blowing, because the more I learned, the more I said, like, I need to find a solution. So the 1/3 of the food produced, produce over 20% of the total methane emissions. Methane
so it's
emissions.
also a climate change issue. Then.
Exactly. So it's with other implication. And 20% of methane emission is not neglectable. It's very significant. I'll give you an example. It will blow your mind also. So methane is a greenhouse effect gas that is 28 times more potent than CO2. So the 20% of methane, that means it's in equivalent CO2, it's huge. So food waste emissions are higher than the whole transportation emissions. It means cars.
Globally. This is around the world.
This is UAE.
Okay.
But around the world, it's not far from that. So because we are having higher food waste ratio compared to the population, but it's at this extent. It means cars, trucks, and planes and boats are emitting less than food waste. So if we divert food waste from the landfill, this is where it happened, the emission, because degrading or decomposing in landfill generate this methane, we will be able to offset the whole transportation sector. You imagine the impact of that. So, and I started looking because after all, I'm I'm a researcher, so when you are a scientist, the first thing that you start looking. And when I started looking, so today with all the technology and AI, and we have only 3 ways of taking care of our waste, specifically organic waste. Landfilling, with all the problems that we said, and emissions and all of that. Second is incineration. We burn it all with all the problems of toxin and energy and infrastructure. It's very costly to have an incineration plant. And third, which is the most, let's say, sustainable way of doing it, is what we call biogas production or waste to energy. And this is a perfect solution, but it has a scale limitation. Scaling up those facilities is not easy, and it has also a cost and capex, very high capex related to those technologies. So I said, could we find another way, like a way that first efficient, second no emission, third not very capex high. And I found out that actually, if we turn back to nature, we can find a solution. So if you see how nature manages its waste, actually it manages its waste through insects. So if
and
there's...
that's when you start looking for the correct insect or the right insect for the application.
Exactly. You have to find one that have short cycle, the one that is growing fast, and the one that is not harmful. So it doesn't have any, it's not a vector to any disease, to human, animals, or plants. And we find out that it exists, and it's already been used in other parts of the world. It's called the black soldier fly. So the black soldier fly has short lifespan, so it's very suitable for industrialization. It's not a vector to any disease. That's why we call it beneficial insect. It doesn't harm plants, human, or animals. And the most importantly, we can put it in a closed area and we can breed it. So we engineered a system. When I say a system, it means like a whole factory where the whole environmental is controlled, temperature, humidity, other parameters, light, etc., cycles, to produce this animal at a high scale, and it can treat our waste. So all the waste that we bring in 10 days, it turned to an output with no emissions, short cycle, and low capex. So we succeeded. It took us 5 years,
It worked.
but it worked. It worked.
I'm also curious because you talked about how Dubai, or being here in the UAE, seeing the food waste sort of inspired this idea in the first place. What brought you to Dubai in the first place? What attracted you to come here?
You will hear this story times and times and times with all the expats. So
It's okay. Let's hear it again.
yeah. So I actually had all my career in France, and I had like my job was international business development. I mean, it's like it's bringing the company that I work in to other geographies and managing those business development activities. And I got a promotion. And the promotion was like, you have now responsibility of EMEA, so it's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I was very happy, excited, things like one caveat, you have to move to Dubai. At that time, I've been few times to Dubai, but I didn't project myself as living in Dubai. When I announced this to my wife, she never been to Dubai, so she didn't know what to expect. So like, okay, let's try it. Let's give it 2 years. And then we decide, and 12 years after, I'm still here. By the way, I left that company long ago in 2019, and I'm still here. And when I decided to set a business, I still set it here, and I have my second daughter here, and yeah, how to say, it's a city that has its own attractiveness. It's a city that has its own way of life that once you taste it, it's very difficult to find an equivalent in the world. By the way, Dubai spoils you. It's very difficult for you to get used to that level of standards in other places in the world.
Although I noted that I think when you started off, it wasn't all incredibly easy. I think the legislative framework wasn't there for industrialization of insect or insect breeding, something in that regard. Correct me, or you'll give me the details on specifically what it was. So, I guess tell me about how you had to work that out, because I think you were the first company to do anything like this in the country.
In the region, actually.
In the region, okay, fantastic.
When we started in 2018-19, we had a pitch deck, an idea. And we were pitching first legislation and first point, licensing. There's no license for insect farming. There's no economical activity. So, and with my co-founder, Dr. Ludmila, we are very resilient people, let's say, and we don't take no for an answer. It took us 1.5 years to figure it out and to put it in place. Actually, in order to walk the path that we are walking, we had to build that path first. So, and this was on all the aspects of the business with different stakeholders. So you have to talk to ADAFSA, Abu Dhabi Food and Agriculture Authority. You have to talk to EED, Abu Dhabi Environmental Agency. You have to talk to DED of Abu Dhabi. You have to talk to the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. You have to talk to at the time, what else we have? Yes, several other licensing with free zones and all of that. And when you are dealing with all of that, you have to think about one very specific idea. Each one of them has its own mandate. You cannot have the same speech to everyone. And each one of them has to achieve some things that you need to help him to achieve. For example, one of them was his main problem is safety and biosafety, and to make sure that putting this rearing insect, and that was among COVID in 2020, telling them, listen, I want to do a factory where we will be having insect reared at millions of individuals, like you have to be sure of your data, precedents in other countries, to make them feel that what you are presenting here is scientifically backed, solid argument on the safety. Others, their issue was on trade and how to make sure that you are following the rules and you are within the installation, the industrial installation and all of that. Others, their problem was on how to make this interact with other products, animal feed, etc., etc. So when we come there, we were not having this attitude of what you're having doesn't work, change it. We have an attitude of let's work together to see what we could do in order for this to work, and this changed everything. It was painful. Let's be honest.
You said it took 1.5 years, right?
For the license.
Just
the license. After that, you have to register products, and after that, you have to get the authorization for the second factory, etc., etc., etc. So it's a very long process. But as a pioneer, this is what you have to do. So what I wanted to say in this regard, by the way, yes, it was long, it was painful, but I have to admit that all the institution, the government entities that we interacted with, they were quite helpful. They're trying to see how things could work, bringing solution. because it had been very easy for them to say, listen, not possible.
Sure.
Or
of course.
come back in 5 years. We never had this, ever. We had it in other countries, by the way, but not here. It's always a way of, it's interesting, let's see how we can make it. For example, when we started from the beginning, because we need to start at some point, we have a very good advice saying like, listen, what you are doing, and this when we were talking about registering the products, et cetera, your alternative protein, we don't have it here, it doesn't exist, et cetera, but we have the organic fertilizer. It exists. Start with this. Build on that, show it works, and then we will see what will happen.
Protein and later the fuel.
Exactly. And that was actually an advice by the people that, if they wanted, they could say like, come back in 5 years.
Of course.
So it gives you an idea about how the spirit is in this country and why the innovation has found its a good soil here to blossom and to continue. So
speaking of good soil and fertilizers, since you brought that up, I think it's so fascinating that you have this process to create the fertilizer. It's definitely something that's become very topical of late, with supply chain disruptions, closing the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf is one of the biggest producers of fertilizer, globally. Is this process a potential alternative to produce fertilizer on a mass global scale? Not yet.
The second part hurts.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, that's why I'm asking. You're
no. It's very interesting. Let me. That's why I love what I do, because like you see, we're talking about 3 areas, and 3 areas that are completely different what I was doing 20 years ago, and every day you are learning, and every day you are having a new conversation, and this is very, very interesting. So, very broadly, very high level, the fertilizer, you have 2 sort of fertilizer. You have the chemical fertilizer. So those are fertilizers that are produced with a chemical process out of urea and other products, and phosphate and other products. And you have what we call the organic fertilizer. So organic fertilizer, this is the traditional way of fertilizing soil and plants, and like our grandparents used to have like animal manure that they put into the soil, and this is what a fertilizer is, because it brings the elements that the plant needs to grow. In terms of scale, there's no way that the organic fertilizer will be produced at the same level than the chemical one. First. Second, it's more expensive to produce organic fertilizer than chemical fertilizer. And that's why the scale hurts. Actually, it's not because we cannot produce more organic fertilizer, but because it's an economical equation. Because it's more expensive and there's less demand, we will not invest in putting big facilities to produce it. So, what happened, even with the last years, we are seeing like a lot of organic and regenerative agriculture that boosted the production of organic fertilizer, but it was 2 times or more the price of conventional fertilizer, like chemical fertilizer. Now with this crisis, and before it actually, it started even with the war Russia-Ukraine, because they were also big producer of fertilizer, the prices went up, significantly up. And now this discrepancy between the prices is not there. So it's a real opportunity also to invest into infrastructure that will produce more of organic fertilizer at a price that will justify the cost. So doing so, you will prevent yourself from being dependent solely on chemical fertilizer. So at least you will have the alternative, and the alternative won't be double the price.
So tell me about the protein, insect protein, sort of, I know it's used to feed poultry, fish. Does it have human applications? Can we consume it? How do you see that sort of being used and sold?
Could I give an introduction to?
Yes, please do. Please do. Always. Introductions are always welcome.
Okay. Before talking about human consumption and all of that let's talk a little bit about food security. Okay. So a big part of us as a country and as a region, by the way, GCC region, are, except Oman in the same situation, we import more than 85% of our food. And you would be surprised that more than half of the food waste is related to that, is related to expired products. So expiry date is also part of the food waste. But coming back to us as a nation importing 85 or more than 85% of our food, this is a strategic issue that we have to consider. It's at the same level of importance than defense. Because yes, we have to protect ourselves against aggressions militarily, but also we have to protect ourselves against starvation if we cannot procure all of that. And food security has a lot of aspects to it. Definitely we cannot grow everything we need to secure our needs in terms of food supply. In my opinion, it has to be a balance, okay, between what we are growing locally, what we are producing locally, what we are importing, and what we own outside, that we can have specific way of bringing inside. But when I hear people talking about food security, there is one aspect that is completely absent of the equation, which is feed security, animal feed, alaf, animal feed. Because here in the UAE and in Saudi and in other countries in the region, there is a big industry of poultry, for example, or aquaculture, of even cows, dairy, goats. If we are importing 85% of what we are producing, the feed is way above 90%. So, and we are very conscious also about the stock and the strategic stock of what we are eating for human, but we are less when it comes to cattle. So the strategic reserve of feed is way smaller than the food. All of that to say that we need to think as a nation on how we locally produce feed, animal feed, because if we don't feed the cows, 2 weeks later, they are gone. If we don't feed the camels, even if you let them in the bar, they will not find the way to eat because they forget how to graze and to find
Sure,
to find that. Like,
of course.
It's as simple as that. And also,
and that's where the insect protein comes in?
exactly, as a feed, we have to produce our feed for the chicken, for the fish, for the aquaculture. Feed locally produced should be produced. So I was surprised when we started registering the product as animal feed for chicken, for example. We don't have a category because we import all the animal ingredients. All the feed ingredients.
Feeding for the animals, yes.
To feed the animals. So there's definitely way to progress and to address this issue. But what I'm trying to put forward here is animal feed is very important part of food security, because the chicken, the fish, the steak that we are eating at some point needs feed, and if we don't have it, it's gone.
Well, I mean, we talked about, I guess, how the things you're producing with Circa addresses many of those sort of challenges, or some way of one aspect maybe of dealing with some of these challenges that we're facing right now in the situation we're in. You also mentioned how you're a resilient person, a persistent person. I mean, you founded the business, as you said, during COVID, or started it up at that time, which I imagine was very challenging for many reasons. And obviously today we're facing, new challenges, and we're sort of, tackling them, day by day. I'm curious how the current situation has affected your business, how things are going for you, and sort of what you're doing to tackle some of the challenges we're facing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely it affects the business from the demand part, but also from the investment part also. So you can see that there's less appetite for investment in industrial sites. So this is the challenging part. Another aspect also was related to personnel and team members and all of that. So some of them left. So you have to find a way on how to bring other people and to continue the process. All of that was disrupted. Fuel also, because we have to bring in and out products, and this affected our bottom line at the end of the day.
They should be using your fuel. Saves everyone money.
We don't have planes. We have trucks.
Sure. I understand.
I wish. Anyway, so that was the challenging part. And we will overcome it, because we seen others. However, I also see an opportunity on that. And the opportunity is, actually, I compare this situation, fair enough what you said, with the COVID situation. Because COVID situation was a wake-up call on how fragile the supply chain could be. Because COVID, it wasn't only about health, it was how to bring food to the country, or how to bring goods to the country when there's no ports operating elsewhere in the world. And now we are having the situation with the Hormuz strait. And you never know that tomorrow you will have a situation with the Malacca Strait and Taiwan and China. It's all of that to say, this is something that we have to be prepared for, because we are living a crisis. We will overcome this crisis, but this crisis should teach us on how to be prepared for the next one. And this is what I was saying this before, the flood that we had during.
Right, we had another bad weather incident this year as well.
So in 2 years ago, 2024, if I remember well, we have that episode, and it was submerged, and the whole Dubai was under water for weeks. And now we had a similar episode, weather, and it went smoothly. Why it went smoothly? Because we were prepared. We didn't have less rain. And I was surprised, because I was driving the same areas, and the other year, 2 years ago, it was lakes of water for weeks. And this time, the same place with the same amount of water, half a day and it's gone. And the pumps were working, and the drainage system worked, and et cetera, because we were prepared. And I don't know, but I think there was also some investment at that time that allowed things to become this way. So what I'm saying...
I mean, Dubai, I think, is remarkable in this way, that they very much are very proactive, the UAE as well, in learning those lessons.
Exactly, and this is what we should do right now, about food security, and about how we will be producing locally more and more, industrializing our food more and more, and how we can facing the next crisis.
Well, I think that's a lovely note to end on. Dr. Haythem, thank you so much for being with us on Homegrown. I think we'll all come out of this stronger together. I'm really excited about the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be important now, but even more important potentially in the future. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.